Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that some men barely try, and women automatically treat them better, more polite, more consistent, more loyal, while you had to fight for half the effort? It's not unfair. It's psychological. Women respect certain men before they even realize they're attracted to them. And if you're not one of those men, you're already starting from a deficit. That's why you feel like you're always proving yourself, always doing more, always trying to earn what other men receive by default. But here's the part that should wake you up. There are exactly 3 types of men women respect instantly. 3 patterns that shift the entire dynamic from you chasing her to her adjusting to you. And today, you're going to learn exactly what those 3 types are. But before we break down those 3 types, you need to understand why women respond to certain men this way in the first place. Women don't respect a man because he tries hard. They respect him because something in his presence tells them he won't collapse when they lean on him. Before a woman feels attraction, before she feels tenderness or desire, her mind makes a silent calculation. Is this a man whose internal world is stronger than mine? Can I trust the way he moves? Respect always comes first. Attraction follows it, not the other way around. To understand this, you have to see how women navigate emotional safety. A woman opens up only when she senses that a man's boundaries are real, that he isn't shaped by every mood she has, and that he doesn't trade his self-worth for approval. Respect becomes the anchor that tells her she can reveal herself without fearing chaos in return. When a woman senses stability in you, she relaxes. When she senses fragility, she tests you. Respect also defines how she positions you in her social landscape. Women subconsciously categorize men: who is grounded, who is a threat, who is forgettable, who is admirable. This isn't cruelty, it's psychological sorting. A man with clear limits and strong internal value rises in that hierarchy without speaking a word. A man who lacks them sinks immediately, even if he is kind, even if he means well. Think of the man who always tries to be the good guy. He listens, he gives, he adapts. He tries to prove he's worth choosing, yet every woman he dates either loses interest or walks all over him. He's not rejected because he's good. He's rejected because he has no structure. Nothing for her to lean against, nothing for her to respect. Respect doesn't shatter from a single blow. It erodes through tiny cuts, and those cuts are where everything begins to break. But before we break down those 3 types, you need to understand why women respond to certain men this way in the first place. The truth is that most men don't lose respect because of one catastrophic mistake. They lose it in the quiet, forgettable moments they never realized mattered. Women don't rely on dramatic events to understand who a man really is. They read the small shifts, the subtle reactions, the tiny cracks in his frame. Those details tell them everything. This is why the earliest challenges a woman gives you rarely look like challenges. They're disguised as small inconveniences, light teasing, or harmless changes in behavior. She cancels a date at the last minute and watches how quickly you offer to reschedule. She replies to your message with half interest just to see if you start over-explaining yourself. She mentions a man who complimented her, not because she cares about him, but because she wants to see what happens to your composure. None of these moments are malicious. In psychology, women use these microtests to measure a man's emotional leadership. She's not trying to hurt you. She's trying to see if you can hold yourself when things don't go your way. If you crumble over something small, she knows you'll collapse when the relationship becomes real. Every woman instinctively evaluates whether you can stay grounded when emotions rise, hers or yours. The problem is that many men misinterpret these moments. They think being understanding means tolerating everything. They think being patient means accepting disrespect. They think staying calm means pretending not to care. And with every weak reaction, respect slips. A woman doesn't lose respect because you're kind. She loses respect because you show her that your self-worth is negotiable. When a man responds to these micro-disrespects with anxiety, neediness, or endless reassurance, she feels it instantly. His energy shifts, his posture changes, his words become soft where they should be firm. And from that moment, she knows she can push further. This is the psychological doorway to everything that comes next, because when these subtle tests appear, a certain kind of man stands out, the one who never bargains with his own dignity. Number 1. The man who never negotiates his self-respect. A woman measures a man's value long before she admits she's attracted to him. She watches how he responds to pressure, how he handles subtle disrespect, and how quickly he abandons himself the moment he fears losing her. Respect isn't granted because you're loyal, generous, patient, or emotionally available. It's granted because you refuse to compromise who you are when someone tests your boundaries. A woman can sense the difference between a man who acts from grounded principles and a man who reacts from fear. The second group collapses the moment the relationship becomes difficult. They trade dignity for proximity. They tolerate behavior that chips away at their self-worth. They accept weak excuses just to keep the peace. And they hope their patience will eventually earn them the love they're afraid to lose. It never does. The fastest way a man destroys his value is by signaling that he's willing to shrink himself to stay in a woman's life. When he accepts behavior he'd never tolerate from anyone else, showing up late without explanation, disappearing and returning with a flimsy apology, shifting her tone from warm to distant overnight, he teaches her exactly how to treat him, not because she wants to disrespect him, but because he has shown her there are no consequences. She learns he'll stay even when she steps on the line. She learns his boundaries are only words. And once she learns that, respect drains quietly, permanently. Picture this. She cancels a date an hour before you're supposed to meet. She gives you a soft excuse, something vague, something that doesn't add up, and instead of stepping back, you respond with understanding, flexibility, and immediate willingness to reschedule. You think you're being patient. She sees a man who's already negotiating with his dignity. In that moment, she mentally lowers your status. She may still see you. She may still enjoy your company, but she no longer respects you on the level that creates attraction, devotion, or trust. A man who embodies self-respect behaves differently. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't criticize. He doesn't punish. He simply acts. If someone crosses a line, he steps back. If someone shows inconsistency, he places distance. If someone gives him disrespect, he removes access, not to intimidate, not to manipulate, but because he understands that boundaries only exist when they're enforced. He doesn't argue about them. He doesn't explain them repeatedly. He doesn't ask anyone to treat him better. He treats himself with enough value that people adjust or exit. This kind of man becomes undeniable. Women don't respect him because he demands it. They respect him because they can feel the internal architecture he carries: structure, clarity, and calm consequence. He is not afraid to lose someone who is testing the limits of his self-worth. And that makes him more powerful than the man who tries to hold everything together with words. A man who acts on his boundaries never loses respect, even when he loses the woman. And that's why this type stands apart. He doesn't chase stability, he creates it. But boundaries alone don't build dominance in a woman's mind. There's a deeper layer women evaluate instantly, the sense that other people want you too. Number 2, the man with real options. Women instantly respect a man who moves through the world like someone who is never limited to a single outcome, a single opportunity, or a single woman. Not because he juggles multiple partners and not because he chases attention, but because his life communicates something unmistakable. He is not desperate. His identity isn't built on whether one woman chooses him. His value isn't negotiated in private moments of insecurity. He knows he can rebuild, reposition, and reconnect because he has earned that confidence through discipline, growth, and self-investment. Women feel this immediately. A man with options carries a different posture, a different tone, a different pace. He doesn't rush when he doesn't need to rush. He doesn't cling when she pulls away. He doesn't panic when she becomes distant. He doesn't unravel because one person isn't giving him the attention he wants. His life has momentum outside of her. His value doesn't depend on her validation. And because he is not emotionally monopolized by the relationship, she sees him as someone she cannot control. This activates a psychological mechanism known as competition anxiety, a natural response where women evaluate a man's desirability through the eyes of other women. When she senses that people notice him, admire him, or express interest in him, something shifts inside her. She becomes more attentive, more invested, more careful. She's not afraid of losing him because she's insecure. She's afraid of losing him because she understands that a man with options doesn't stay where he's not valued. The misunderstanding most men have is imagining that options means collecting numbers or hosting a revolving door of dates. That isn't strength. That's distraction. Real options come from internal value, health, discipline, financial stability, emotional intelligence, meaningful social presence, and the ability to stand alone without collapsing. When a man builds a life that reflects consistency and capability, he becomes someone other people naturally gravitate toward, not because he's performing, but because human beings are drawn to grounded energy. When a woman sees that energy in a man she's dating, her behavior subtly changes. Imagine this scenario. You post a picture looking sharp, composed, and comfortable in your skin. Another woman leaves a simple comment. You look good. It's harmless. It's public. It's not a threat. Yet the moment your partner sees it, her tone shifts. Her emotional posture changes. She becomes more present, more responsive, more intentional. Not because she's jealous, but because she's reminded that your value isn't contained within her hands. Women respect men they cannot isolate. Men whose world is bigger than the relationship. Men who don't lose themselves in one person. A man with options does not beg for reassurance. He does not collapse under distance. He does not chase emotional highs. His center of gravity lives within himself. A man with options is uncontrollable, and women respect what they cannot control. But even this kind of presence crumbles if a man's emotions can be rattled. Because the moment she realizes she can shake you, everything shifts. Number 3, the emotionally untouchable man. A woman can admire your ambition, appreciate your kindness, and enjoy your presence. But she only respects you when she realizes her emotions cannot destabilize yours. Emotional steadiness is one of the strongest signals of masculine strength, and women read it with incredible accuracy. They watch how quickly you react, how intensely you spiral, how easily your state changes because of something small they said or didn't say. The moment she learns she can shake your emotions, respect quietly breaks. Women test emotional stability not to create conflict, but to understand whether you can handle the weight of a relationship. When a woman becomes vulnerable, her emotions are not linear. They rise, fall, fluctuate, collide. She needs to know the man beside her won't lose direction when she loses balance. And so, without planning it, she tests. She pulls back slightly to see if you chase. She delays a reply to understand your impulse. She mentions another man's compliment. Not to provoke, but to observe your center of gravity. These small moments reveal far more than any deep conversation ever could. Most men fail these tests for one simple reason. They let their fear lead. The fear of being replaced. The fear of losing control. The fear of not being enough. And fear makes them react in ways that destroy their presence. They become jealous at the smallest threat. They overthink every pause in communication. They snap in anger when they feel uncertain. They beg for reassurance the moment she withdraws. Each reaction tells her the same thing. This man cannot hold his own emotions. If she becomes the anchor of his stability, she cannot trust him to anchor hers. Consider this simple scenario. She casually says, "Someone flirted with me today." A man without emotional grounding hears danger. He asks questions, becomes tense, or acts defensive. His voice tightens, his energy shifts. She didn't say it to hurt him. She said it to see whether he could stay composed. The emotionally untouchable man responds differently. He acknowledges it with calm, steady presence, neither insecure nor dismissive. He understands her words are a mirror, not a threat. His confidence doesn't wobble. His frame holds. This steadiness creates a profound psychological effect. A woman senses she can express herself, her jealousy, her excitement, her storms, without causing him to lose direction. She relaxes around him because she sees that her emotions can move, but they cannot move him. She feels safer, not controlled, guided, not dominated. This is emotional leadership, and women respect it instinctively. The solutions are behavioral, not performative. Emotional detachment doesn't mean coldness. It means remaining anchored when someone tries to shift your balance. It means choosing not to argue with impulsive emotions. It means refusing to hand your mood to anyone else. When she tests, you stay steady. When she pulls back, you hold your direction. When she tries to provoke a reaction, you choose clarity over chaos. This doesn't make you distant. It makes you trustworthy. The moment she can shake you, she stops respecting you. But when she realizes she cannot control your emotional state, something changes. She sees you as a man she can lean on, a man she cannot manipulate, a man whose strength is internal rather than reactive. And when that realization settles, you stop being just another option. You become the standard. Because when a man embodies self-respect, real options, and emotional mastery, he becomes someone women instinctively adjust themselves around. When a man embodies all three elements, self-respect, real options, and emotional steadiness, something in a woman's behavior transforms immediately. She doesn't need a conversation to understand the shift. She feels it. The relational dynamic recalibrates on its own. Attraction deepens, but more importantly, her respect becomes consistent and instinctive. Women respond to internal structure the way the body responds to gravity. It pulls them into alignment. The first change you'll notice is in her tone. It softens. Not out of submission, but out of clarity. She sees a man who isn't moved by insecurity or fear, and that steadiness influences the way she speaks, the way she approaches conflict, the way she expresses her needs. She becomes more intentional, more thoughtful, more aware of the weight of her actions. Then her effort increases. A woman naturally moves toward a man whose presence elevates her. She invests more. She reaches out more. She initiates more. She doesn't test with the same sharpness because she no longer needs to question your stability. The relationship becomes easier, not because she stops feeling emotions, but because she recognizes she's with someone who can hold them without collapsing. She also tests less, not because she loses interest, but because she learns quickly that you live by principle, not pressure. When she sees you enforce your boundaries, maintain your options without flaunting them, and regulate your emotions without suppressing them, she stops pushing for reactions. There's no need. Your consistency answers every question. Respect becomes visible in the smallest details. She keeps her word more often. She communicates with clearer intention. She takes responsibility for missteps instead of hiding behind excuses. Her respect is not fear-based, it's admiration-based. You've shown her a man she can trust because he trusts himself. Imagine that scenario in motion. You walk into a relationship grounded, composed, and focused on your standards rather than her reactions. She feels your frame before you ever describe it. When she becomes emotional, you remain centered. When she pulls back, you stay aligned. When another woman notices you, you're unfazed, not performative. She observes the pattern, connects the dots, and adjusts naturally. She becomes more respectful because your presence demands it. Not with words, but with the way you live. This isn't a game. It's the psychological reality of a man who knows who he is and what he won't accept. Respect isn't something you negotiate. It's something you establish through behavior, consistency, and self-governance. Respect isn't something you ask for. It's something you command by existing in your full strength. When you step back and look at the 3 types of men women instantly respect, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. It's not about charm, looks, effort, or romantic energy. It's about the internal framework you carry. Boundaries that don't bend, a life rich enough to create real options, and emotional stability that no one can shake. These qualities don't just change the way women see you. They change the way you move through every relationship, every interaction, every decision you make as a man. A man who holds his boundaries becomes someone a woman cannot dismiss. A man with options becomes someone she cannot take for granted. And a man who is emotionally untouchable becomes someone she cannot manipulate, destabilize, or control. Together, these traits create a force that alters the entire atmosphere around you. Women sense it the way they sense confidence, power, or decisiveness. They don't question it. They respond to it, and the impact is immediate. Your relationships become calmer. Your conversations become clearer. The constant tension you used to feel, wondering whether she's losing interest, whether she's testing you, whether you're doing enough, begins to fade. You stop chasing reassurance because you no longer need it. You stop overthinking because you no longer fear outcomes. And without that fear, you start leading with presence instead of pressure. You'll notice she trusts you more. Not because you perform for her, but because she sees you won't collapse when things get difficult. You'll notice she brings you fewer problems that come from insecurity and more vulnerability that comes from safety. You'll notice the drama disappears, not because she changed, but because you stopped feeding the behaviors that created it. A man who isn't respected will always end up wounded. He will always feel unseen, unheard, and undervalued. But a man who commands respect through his actions, not through words or demands, becomes a man who is treated with devotion. When a woman respects you, she loves differently. She stays differently. She shows up differently. Respect is the doorway to love. If you don't walk through it as a man, the relationship collapses before it begins. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it, and tell me in the comments which type of man you are today, and which type you're committed to becoming next.